Welcome to the dimly lit corner of soft, emotional recalibration. Nah, this ain't going to be that kind of party. Welcome to each of you who somehow, in the vastness of this life, found yourself right here. Welcome all the beaten, bruised, battered, and brave to the S.H.I.F.T show. Hell, I'll even welcome myself because this is the first episode. And I know what you're thinking. Just what we need. Another white guy with a podcast. Relax, this show is it's going to be a little different than what you may have in mind. I'm not going to read you motivational tweets or sing Kumbaya to you for an hour every week. I'm not going to sell you mushroom coffee or whatever the special focus drink is that's hot on the YouTube market right now. Unless they want to offer me money. At that point, I'll tell you exactly how deliciously special they are and why they should be in your tummy right now. Till then, I'm not here to echo what everybody else is talking about on Facebook. I'm here because I'm probably a lot like you, tired of all the noise, all the chaos, all the constant BS that this life throws at us. I'm here because I wanted to create something where everyone is welcome to come and unpack the ridiculousness of this world that we live in, with hopes that maybe we can learn a little bit more about one another and make this place more tolerable for all of us. This show is going on an expedition, I'll say. A look into your lived experience, into mine, and into those from all walks of life at all stages of life. It's going to explore the corners of your mind that maybe you've blocked off. Maybe you've been scared to venture to. Or maybe you just haven't paid that much attention to. I want this show to evolve into whatever people need it to be. But here's where I want it to start. I want this show to give your pain a voice. I want it to give your truth a stage. I want it to be a place for all those wild thoughts in your head to come out and play. Here on the S.H.I.F.T show, we're going to talk about all the things the world tells us that we shouldn't. All the things that are often too uncomfortable to face. Here, we're going to learn how to make it comfortable. In this dimly lit corner of questionable coping skills and warm, sensible validation. We're going to drag all those things out into the light, all the things you've been screaming in your head, and give them room to express themselves. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, who is this nerd you found yourself listening to, or at your great demise seeing on YouTube? Hello there, my name is Adam Blevins, and I'm going to be your guide on this little expedition. And I know that there is an infinite amount of things that you could be doing right now. And there's an ocean of content floating out there in the vastness of internet space. And my ugly mug is just another asking for your attention. But if you stick around long enough, you'll find that I'm not asking for the type of attention that you may think. The reason I'm here is because I'm curious. I'm curious as to why we are the way we are. Why we do the things we do, act the way we act, react the way we react. But most importantly, how is it that all of us are right here in this moment in time together, but we're all so far apart? We're all so different. And there seems to be damn near a global effort to refuse to understand one another. Let me back up. Most of you don't even know who the hell I am, and I'm already diving straight into a philosophical rabbit hole, right? Hello again, I'm Adam, and I've dedicated my life to public service, and I've experienced a lot. I've experienced a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, some of it mine, most of it belonging to others. And in that experience, I've developed an insatiable hunger to learn how I can contribute to helping people overcome those things. My professional career started out in corrections, where I worked as a detention officer for a little while at a local jail, before transitioning over to the state police, where I served as a trooper for several years. Don't lose me here. I later transitioned into mental health, where I now serve as a resident in counseling, specializing mainly in trauma, resilience, and stress management. I help lead a statewide nonprofit that responds to critical incidents and disasters. I'm a published author, and I'm pursuing a PhD in trauma-informed care. Now that you know how impressive I am, and before you click away because I sound like a insufferable intellectual just telling you how educated and great I am, stand by. I'm intelligent in some things. I'm an absolute dumbass in many other areas of life. So don't get me confused with somebody who has shiny little cameras and thinks he has this life all figured out. I don't tell you any of those things to impress you because, no offense, I don't lose sleep over what people think of me. I'm here because I've seen things that most people will live their entire lives and never experience. I've shared space with people from all corners of this earth, from all backgrounds. And what I think separates my experience from that of some others is I've paid attention. I've observed how we move through this world, how we lift each other up, how we break each other down, and how we are capable of things that are beyond our very comprehension. I tell you all that because I believe I come with a unique perspective, a perspective that's been shaped by years of sitting with people in their darkest moments, people on the verge of giving up before they've even had an opportunity to experience a fraction of the beauty this life has to offer. I've had a peek behind the curtain, if you will, of what most people will never see: the good, the bad, the terrible, and the beautiful. As a detention officer, I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about how disgusting and evil people can be. I learned how mistakes can ruin lives. I learned that despite their circumstances differing from mine, we're not that different. And who am I to say that I'm not one bad day or one mistake short of winding up in the same position that they're in? Maybe I'm just lucky I met all the right people along the way, and they, unfortunately, didn't. As a trooper, I'll get ahead of this joke now, I learned a lot more than writing tickets as a trooper. I learned personally what hell was. From picking up body parts on the highway, to plane crashes in the mountains, to riots, to homicide scenes, suicide scenes, and everything in between. I learned what it feels like to look someone in the eyes while the spirit in their heart dies. Knocking on doors at 3 o'clock in the morning and shattering someone's existence with news that one can only hope is a bad dream. I've lost friends, brothers, sisters, and I've held the hands of people who I could do absolutely nothing for. I've seen things that I thought broke me, things that gutted me, things that had me reaching for the wrong solutions. As the operations director of a nonprofit, I respond to and coordinate deployments around the state to provide peer support, stress management, and clinical services to first responders who have witnessed things that will change how they move through this world. I've stood in gyms and arenas with thousands of grieving people. I've sat in rooms with arguably the strongest and most resilient among us who have felt like even their shield has finally cracked. As a resident in counseling, I see everything else. I see the aftermath of the events I just described, the long-term effects. I see how one's experiences, their pain, their anxiety, their irrational thoughts, their upbringing, their beliefs, the environment around them convince their brain of a web of lies that they struggle to untangle. I work with people who hate themselves because someone called them fat 20 years ago. And I'm not picking on you. I'm calling out how stupid it is that it's 2025. Our species has been learning and evolving for 300,000 years, depends on who you ask, of course, and we still have space in our minds that are capable of making someone feel like shit because they're overweight. I've worked with people who have survived things that would make the devil himself cringe. And outside of all that, I'm just me, looking around at a society of people struggling for an infinite amount of reasons. I see people moving through the world a version of themselves that have been shaped by their fears, anxieties, insecurities, pain, doubt, guilt, regret, shame. Mostly, I see a society of people who truly have no idea who they are underneath all of it, or at least a skewed idea of who they are. I also see a society of so many different people, so many different perspectives, viewpoints, worldviews, beliefs, and a blatant avoidance from so many to try to understand those who are different than we are. Here's what I mean. Y'all been outside lately? Turned on the news lately? Been on social media lately? Before I continue, this is not going to be a political podcast, okay? We'll talk about politics from time to time, but it's going to be from a mental health perspective and how it all impacts us at the end of the day. And, I mean, consider this. Look at how divided we are. Look at how much hatred, animosity, and disgust is just floating around. You can taste the tension in the air. It tastes like ego, pride, ignorance, deception, and hate, all washed down with ideologies that keep us from being the best collective version of ourselves. Because a lot of those ideologies, they leave people out, especially the people who don't agree with those ideologies. Here's my theory. Everyone thinks they're right, right? Sounds obvious. But sit with it for just a second, because it's not just that we think we're right. It's not just that we believe we're right. The problem is we know we're right. We don't approach conversations with curiosity anymore. We approach them like we're in a courtroom and the verdict's already been handed down. Guilty if you disagree with me, innocent if you don't. When somebody doesn't share our perspective, our self-righteous little egos slam the gavel. They're wrong, period. We don't ask questions. We don't consider nuance. We cannot entertain the possibility that maybe, just maybe, our beliefs aren't as ironclad and airtight as we thought they were. Take politics, for example. If you ask a liberal right now what they think about conservatives, you'll get a version somewhere along the lines of they're irredeemable, brainwashed, dangerous, trying to ruin our democracy. Now, if you ask conservatives what they think about liberals, you'll get something similar to this. They're godless communists. They're delusional. They're destroying the fabric of America. Any of that sound familiar? Different team colors, same playbook. The insults are interchangeable. If you flip the names, it's the same. And when the Charlie Kirk assassination happened, this cycle went absolutely haywire, went into overdrive. The left had people openly celebrating, still are, the irony of this man's death, that a Second Amendment defender died by a gun. They thought it was hilarious. Like someone never taking another breath again is funny. Like children watching their father bleed out in front of them is less important than scoring points with all your followers on Twitter. The right, many of y'all went nuclear, lumping every Democrat, every progressive, every transgender person — we always go after the transgenders with everything — into the same category as this killer and every other killer before him, every bad person that ever existed. A lot of conservatives were asking for retaliation. Meanwhile, the left turned right back around and pointed the finger and said, excuse me, another school shooting over here in Colorado, but you don't care about that, right? See, that's why you're all hypocrites. Nobody stopped. Nobody took a breath. Nobody asked, what the hell are we doing? What's going on? Because this is going to be uncomfortable. Both sides are trapped in the same exact cycle. Both sides are screaming into the void. Both sides are convinced they have the moral high ground. They have the common sense. They have the real version of America. But neither side sees that they're reenacting the same damn play over and over and over again. They just put different jerseys on. And this isn't just in politics. If you want to see the same script, swap it for religion. Ask an atheist what they think about Christians. They'll tell you they're fairy tale believers, cultish, blind, wasting their lives on an imaginary sky pal. If you ask a Christian what they think about atheists, they're lost, immoral, arrogant, destined for eternal fire. Strip away the language, it's the same energy. I'm right, you're wrong, and your worldview makes you either stupid or evil. In fact, there will be people foaming at the mouth, visibly shaking, dying to jump into the comment sections and scream whatever their beliefs are. It's not a gun problem. It's a mental health problem. It's not a mental health problem. It's a gun problem. I need caffeine for this. It's both. Get uncomfortable with it. It's both. People are dying because mentally ill people can access guns that they don't need and they shouldn't have. Simple. A duck is a duck if it quacks. See, look at you. It's killing you already. You can't even stand the simple sounds that are associated with something that you disagree with. Have you ever been curious as to why you feel that way? Why I feel that way? Why everybody feels that way? Why not only are you not willing to entertain the possibility that you're wrong, but you're so blinded by your hatred for the other side and your insatiable urge to be right that you can't see that you are right and you're wrong. You can be both. You're right about the guns. You're right about the mental health. Maybe y'all should talk about it. But you won't. You'll yell at each other. You'll tear down statues. You'll post memes. You'll spend all this time running on this hamster wheel that is the defense of your beliefs. Many of you will drop your comments making certain that myself and everyone else knows that your definition of life is the correct one. So go ahead, spin your little wheels, waste your time. You've got an infinite amount, right? So how the hell did we get here? How did we arrive at a place where everyone thinks they're right? They're so damn sure of themselves, they can't possibly fathom the idea of being wrong, and spends every waking moment belittling, demonizing, or pitying anyone that sees the world differently than we do. Why is it such a personal and debilitating thing for us to feel like we're wrong? The uncomfortable truth is, it's not just our egos. It's not just the fact that we fail to understand collectively that we have not yet unlocked anywhere near the cognitive ability to begin to have things all figured out. It's also our algorithms. The reality of our situation is this. Most of us are living in a digital funhouse. You open up your phone and what do you see? Everything you already agree with. Every article, every post, every meme, every video, it's perfectly curated just for you. Your favorite cognitive meal sprinkled with your favorite flavor of dopamine. Your outrage reflected back to you. Your fears validated. Your opinions reinforced. That's why you feel so strongly about your side, because it's literally all you see. It doesn't matter if you're watching Fox, CNN, MSNBC, whatever. They're all drug dealers, and dopamine's on sale. Breaking news. Buy one rage-baiting headline and get a lifetime of making new friends for free. We can't look away. We mainline it. We snort it. We light it in a spoon and shoot it straight into our frontal cortex. And we wonder why none of us can sleep. We wonder why we hate our neighbor. So of course you believe you're right. Of course you think the other side is insane, because in your feed, the other side is insane. You don't see nuance. You don't see reasonable people and hear reasonable voices. You don't see people trying to figure it out in the middle of all the bullcrap, right? You see the extremes, the worst possible examples. And then you walk out into the real world, bump into someone who's been living in the opposite algorithm, and suddenly it's like you're looking at a creature from another planet that you don't understand. I'll tell you what I've learned. I'm done arguing with people. I got better shit to occupy my time, my thoughts, and my energy. If you want to tell me that the sky is green, sure thing. The earth's flat? Of course. A purple unicorn in a tutu controls the weather? Absolutely. Epstein was struck by lightning? Well, that makes perfect sense. I'm not arguing with you. If you want to believe every all-caps headline that passes your face, have at it, honey butt. If you want to live a life where you think just because a thought in your head makes it irrefutable evidence, if you want to move through the world letting your uninformed opinions parade around as facts, go nuts. But here's where all that gets a little dark. While we're all busy tearing each other to shreds, right versus left, Christian versus atheist, vax versus anti-vax, whatever, the real damage is happening inside of us. Some of us take all that noise and point it inward. We become our own enemy. We start repeating those same lines in our head, except we just change where it's aimed. You're an idiot. You're worthless. You'll never get it right. We look in the mirror and we don't see a human, we see a failure. Think about it. The way bullies talk to you in middle school, the way politicians talk to each other on the news, the way strangers talk to each other online. A lot of us have started talking to ourselves that very same way. And once that cycle starts, It's hard to shut off. Every day, just another chip at your self-worth. Every day, another blow to your belief that life is worth it. Until one day, the mirror wins. Until one day, the noise becomes unbearable, and you can't take another headline, another post, another insult, another day, and you make a permanent decision. That's the cost of this endless circus where everyone thinks they're right all the time. People thinking just because their eyes see it and their ears heard it, that it is irrefutable, period. It's not just dividing us, it is destroying us. It is ripping us apart. And don't get mad, okay? I do the same thing. You think I'm going to call you out for all your BS and not recognize my own? Please. Most of the things that I call out in this book and on this show is because I learned the hard way how it was hurting my life or how I was hurting other people's lives. I wrote the manual on some of this shit. And here's another truth that many of us don't like to face. It does not matter whether you are left, right, Christian, atheist, black, white, straight, gay, pro this, anti that. The second you start believing that your side is the only sane side, the second you've convinced yourself that you've somehow cornered the market on truth, you've already lost. The real enemy is not the other side. It's the system that has convinced us to hate each other, sometimes so much that we start to hate ourselves. And sometimes that spills out onto other people. Let's take a break from the hard stuff for a second. I'm getting a little flustered. I've seen a lot of bad, man. But you know what? I've seen a hell of a lot more good. I have seen people forgive the unforgivable. I've seen them heal from circumstances I once thought to be impossible. I've seen people share their scars with others to help them see there's a story left to be told on the other side of this pain and a stronger person on the other side for having endured it. I've seen people face the unbelievable, seen people avoid the inevitable. I've seen folks break decades-long addiction, overcome trauma that has skewed their sense of safety and peace for years. I've seen people dragging themselves by their bloody fingernails just to get to a slightly better version of themselves. And I'm here in this dimly lit corner of questionable coping skills, hoping to take a fraction of the remarkable things that I've learned from all those people and share them with you. Because here's a truth that I like to live by. I believe that every single human being should be able to walk this earth and be happy. They should be healthy. They should be able to walk down the street without fear. They should be able to look in the mirror and be happy and proud of what looks back at them. We should all have the opportunity to love, share, prosper. I envision a world where the news isn't covering someone having taken their own life, or a school shooting every 5 minutes, or any scenario where human suffering is caused by human action. I envision a world where one's trauma, their experiences, and their suffering doesn't turn them into the same monsters that they spent so long trying to escape. I envision a world where people don't give up on each other, where we look past our differences, not because we're trying to avoid discomfort, but because we don't see the damn differences in the first place. I envision a world where hate, racism, and any other societal poison, you heard me correctly, doesn't exist. Unfortunately, that's not a reality any of us are going to see in our lifetime or ever, as long as untamed human emotions are at the wheel of this crazy-ass ride. But I'm damn sure going to do everything that I can, as long as I've got breath in my lungs, to contribute to that idea. Because I want to understand. I want to understand how there can be two people, two members of the same species, enter a room. One of them has dedicated their life to service, to healing, encouragement, empowerment, and the other has dedicated their life to the opposite, to hurting people, to putting them down, hating them for no reason beyond the irrational veil they have over their own eyes. Haven't you ever been curious as to how these things happen? How each person's lived experience is so different that they end up on complete opposite ends of the moral spectrum. Don't you ever wonder why what you consider to be so morally right is so far off from what other people think? I do. I question it all the time. I question why I can watch someone or a group of people suffering and my heart bleeds out of my chest, while others could literally care less. they could see that person in their torturous circumstances and simply look the other way because it's easier, because it's more comfortable. I can't do that. Now, I work in the mental health world, which puts me in a position to better understand a lot of these factors and how they influence each of us and influence whatever end of that moral spectrum we end up on. But I'm still dying to know how our society has reached a point where we can't seem to find common ground on any damn thing. Not just the big ticket items, the simple stuff. The things that none of us will give a damn about when we're laying on our deathbed. I want to know why we're so contradicting. I want to know why we can't look each other in the eyes and have a decent conversation without trying to one-up the other person, yelling at them, trying to prove them wrong all the time. So, why are we here? Why this podcast? Why now? Well, truthfully, the world kind of sucks right now. Don't know if you've looked around lately. There's a lot of people looking for dopamine in a brutal-ass world. There's a lot of people walking around with masks on, and those masks are getting heavy because if we're being honest with each other, we've built a mentally dangerous world, a world that can sneak life-altering issues into our mind and we don't even have a clue that it's happening. A world that can confuse us so much that we fail to understand what's right in front of our face sometimes or what's going on in our own heads. For example, do you have anxiety? Have you ever wondered why? Like where it actually came from? Or do you just think it's something that happened to you for no reason? That your brain specifically, was designed to worry about things that doesn't seem to bother anybody else? Well, I come with news. That shit came from somewhere. At some point in your life, something happened to you, or you observed something, or someone taught you something that made that little anxiety bug in your brain go haywire. Now, are some people more prone to anxiety than others, genetically? Sure. That's right. Our genetics play a part in our mental health. We should probably talk about that. But what about depression? What about a negative relationship with food or substances? Anger that you can't regulate, big one for me. Fear you can't escape. Irritability that just becomes who you are. That one's definitely me. Shame that you don't even know where it came from. What about guilt that grips your throat years later? What about grief that won't even let you have just one good day? Or what about on the positive side of things? How is it that you are a miraculous creation, regardless as to how you believe you got here or where you're going next? How is it that you have the potential, my dear friends, to change people's lives, save people's lives, sometimes with just words? Or how is it that your body heals itself? Or how when you think you've reached your limit, you find a new strength? How is it that we as a species have cured what was once thought to be incurable disease, walked on the moon, discovered billions of galaxies beyond our own, mapped most of this planet, developed infrastructures throughout time that has sustained mass populations and civilizations for decades and centuries? Now, hell, we're even using DNA to bring back extinct animal species. Yeah, that's real. That's happening right now. Y'all might be seeing the thylacine again in a few years. Tasmanian tiger. But amidst all that, we still haven't learned how to be nice to each other. We still haven't learned how to love ourselves. And I mean truly love ourselves, because the world gives us a million reasons daily not to. We haven't learned compassion, empathy, patience, grace, or understanding on a collective scale. Explore a question with me. What would happen if all of us all just stopped what we were doing and looked at the person nearest us and said, "How you doing? You okay? What's your story? How can I help you?" What would the ripple effect of that be? How would the world change in 5 minutes if we all collectively gave a shit for 5 seconds? How much hope would be restored? How many people who are seconds away from ending their life would choose to stay instead? How many broken hearts would start to heal? All the people who are desperate to see a little good in a cruel world, how would those people react? How much meaning would be found in those who thought they'd lost it? If every person with breath in their lungs all felt loved, supported, and encouraged all at the same time, what in the hell would happen? What would happen if that became a standard practice? What would happen if people's hearts started changing? Would abused children still grow up to be abusive parents? Would children still join gangs because it's the only place their soul feels welcomed? Would little girls still grow up and sell their bodies because validation is validation? Would children still be dying of genocide in 2025, the same year where you or I could walk outside of a college campus and robots will bring us our food? Think about it. How many children who receive love, attention, and support would never grow up and have an urge to go and shoot up their school? Seriously, think about it. Did you wake up this morning and have an urge to go unalive a bunch of people? No, me neither. There's a reason we think that way, and there's a reason others don't. My point is, what would happen if we were better, kinder, more compassionate, less driven to be right all the damn time, and more curious about the things that we don't understand? What if the comment sections didn't look the way they do? What if people stopped pointing fingers and started talking? What would happen if we started learning from each other? What if it didn't matter? If you're black, white, Republican, Democrat, gay, straight, immigrant, native-born, pro-choice, pro-not, scientific, religious, fat, skinny, bald, rich, poor, young, old, creative, logical, single, divorced, healthy, sick, differently abled, Yankee, hillbilly, he, she, they, them, us, y'all, over there, over yonder, one God or 20 gods, or whether you're a shoes on or off in the house kind of person. How would our understanding of all those things change if we took a little time, all of us, to really look at them, to ask them why they are the way they are, and ask ourselves why we give a shit, why we spend more time disliking, hating, and trying to get rid of others instead of doing anything else? These are the types of ideas that we explore in my book. It's called Welcome to the S.H.I.F.T Show, How to Love Yourself in a World That Won't, which is where the evolution of this whole podcast began. And the response that I've received from this book has been amazing, and the exact reason why I wrote this book. The stories of how this book has been helping people, they're incredible. It's beyond what I can put into words. But one thing that I've heard the most is we need more. So congratulations. Here's more, because I've certainly got time to do it, right? I wrote this book to help people, to give them hope, to give them a reason to believe in themselves again, and the encouragement to pursue a self-love unlike anything they've ever experienced. I'm doing this show for those very reasons, and for the ones that maybe don't have time to sit down and read a book, or maybe they can't afford therapy, or maybe they just fell asleep on YouTube and here I am. I wrote the book and started this podcast because as long as people keep hating themselves, ending their lives, ending other people's lives, as long as there are bullies, liars, manipulators, cheaters, backstabbers, predators, frauds, gaslighters, tyrants, abusers, oppressors, deceivers, narcissists, haters, hypocrites, extremists, zealots, systems that fail us, institutions that punish innocent people, trends that shame people, algorithms that exploit people, advertisements that constantly lie to us, social pressures that suffocate us, unrealistic standards that nobody can live up to and crushes us. What about the people that won't look up long enough from their damn phone to see the damage that we're all doing? Long as all that's still going on, we're doing something wrong. And personally, I can't just sit back and stay quiet anymore while all that nonsense keeps running the show. Because I've helped carry the pain of the folks that are on the other side of it. The ones who hurt in the shadows while everybody else dances around all happy because they're winning. And I'll continue to do so because somebody did that for me. I started this whole S.H.I.F.T project because somebody has to call it out. Somebody has to expose the BS, and someone has to remind you that none of that defines who you are. But it does define the world that we need to give a little attention to, the one that has convinced you otherwise. So, sorry I got long-winded there. So, what exactly is this show going to be? Well, It's going to give your inner child a megaphone. Damn, that got your attention. Now that I have it, this show is going to let your shame speak out loud instead of whispering like it used to. It's going to give your silence subtitles. It's going to put your coping mechanisms through a full-blown performance review. Let me reset the table. I may work in mental health, but please don't get this confused. I'm not on this show to be your therapist. We can work that out through proper channels and my supervisor. No, I'm here to be your trauma translator. I'm going to give your survival mode an exit interview. I'm going to give your identity a mirror and give you time to actually figure out who you are underneath all the masks you've been wearing, the ones to keep people comfortable with you, to keep yourself safe, or the ones you wear just to survive the damn day. This is the Shift Show. And no, that's not a typo. And yes, it is a cuss word in a costume. But it stands for something. It's an acronym that represents the Shift framework that's in the book. You'll learn more about that if you stick around and watch the show for a while. I also think it represents how life feels most of the time. Like a never-ending shit show with no toilet paper in sight and there's a fire alarm going off in the background. And what I've learned about this shit show, if you will, and the overlap of those worlds being law enforcement and mental health, what I've gained from that peek behind the curtain of society, if you will, is this. Everybody is carrying something. All the demographics I gave you earlier, yeah, none of y'all are immune. Okay? Let me say that again so the narcissists in the back of the room can play along. Everyone is carrying something. Not just first responders, not just veterans, not just abuse survivors, not just addicts. Everybody. You, me, the barista, the mailman, insert mom joke here, the guy who cuts you off in traffic, your therapist, the 120-year-old door greeter at Walmart that seems like he could smile through a tornado. Even among the wealthiest and those who seem like they've got life all figured out. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you're from, where you're going. Everyone is carrying fear or trauma or shame, confusion, guilt, grief, rage, anxiety, regret, ignorance, depression, burnout. Something. We're all just really damn good at pretending we're not. And if I've learned anything from me, pretending gets exhausting. So that's a little bit about what this show is. Here's a little bit of what it's not. This is not going to be a show that's going to fill you up with sunshine and rainbows and daily palm readings. Not that those are necessarily bad things, but I'm more informed on the mentally dangerous side of life, the parts that stick to us, the parts that influence who and what we become, the parts that influence how we treat other people, how we treat ourselves. This is not going to be a space for toxic positivity. Because once again, I come with news. Just because you shine a flashlight on a turd doesn't mean it's not still a turd. There's positivity and then there's delusion. And the line is thinner than many people may think. We're not going to meet here every week to manifest our dream lives while completely ignoring the fact that some of us are just trying to survive the next 5 minutes. We're not going to repress emotions here. We're not going to play hide and seek with our problems here. Instead, we're going to drag them out into the light, and we're going to ask them what they're trying to tell us. This ain't going to be Oprah's book club. No offense, Oprah. I love how you make a lot of money and give people in your show cars and stuff. Anyway, this show is going to be a spiritual, cultural, and psychological root canal, hosted by a former cop with a trauma degree, an attitude, and an insatiable desire to see people thrive, especially those who have lost faith in whether or not they can. And don't think I'm here just to tell you everything that's wrong with you and this is just my platform of choice to change you. No. I simply want to bring awareness to the things in your life that maybe you haven't thought about before. Things that I've learned and keep learning, sometimes a hard way. So if you've ever sat in your car pretending to text somebody because you could not face what was next, if you've ever laughed at a funeral because your nervous system forgot what the hell to do, or if you've said, I'm fine, while also Googling how to fake your own death and move to Canada, welcome all of you to the Shift Show. Because this is not just going to be a self-help show. This is going to be a self-confrontation show, a self-revealing show, a show that challenges everything you know and dares you to grow. We're going to laugh our way through the hard stuff. We might cry through a punchline or 12, but hopefully we're going to learn a lot together along the way. Each episode, something's going to make you laugh. Something's going to make you think. Something's going to make you reflect, and hopefully something's going to make you feel like you're finally ready to face whatever that thing is that might be holding you back, whether that thing is a relationship, a job, a belief, a pattern, a habit, a circumstance, a fear, or just you. There's going to be a little philosophy, a little therapy, a little, did he just say that? A little, damn, I needed to hear that. And maybe even some moments where you realize you've been holding your breath since 2006. Some episodes, most episodes, are going to be just me and you, talking our way through life's challenges and laughing at the nonsense. Others, I'll invite you to join me and guests who have either survived the unspeakable or maybe they just survived their last staff meeting, which I understand very well. Most importantly, what they did or what they're doing to shift themselves away from whatever it is that has kept them down and towards becoming a better version, a more desirable version that they want to see. Each episode will feature 6 segments. The first is going to be If Scars Could Talk. We all have scars. Some of them are loud and obvious, battle wounds that you can point to and say, right here, that's where life wrecked me. Others are quieter, invisible, internal, etched into our nervous system like muscle memory. But nobody claps for those survivors. If your scars could talk, what story would they tell? Each week, I'll read anonymous submissions from readers and listeners who have lived through hell and lived to tell about it. Not to glamorize pain, we're not going to compare our suffering like it's some kind of trauma Olympics, but because stories save lives. And maybe, just maybe, someone hearing your exact story is the exact reason you survived it. We'll hear about heartbreak, betrayal, abuse, loss, shame, survival. We'll hear about the shift, when it happened, how it happened, or maybe it still hasn't happened yet. And that's okay too, because I don't want this space to feel like we need to come here to figure everything out. I want this to be a space where you let whatever part of you that for whatever reason was silenced speak. Now, why would I ask you to do that? To share the hardest, rawest parts of your life. Because I've done it. And it changed everything. Because someone somewhere needs to know that they're not the only ones dragging themselves through the mud with a bleeding heart and no idea where the hell to go next. And you deserve to know that you're not alone either. In our culture and in our society, we have demonized emotion. We've made vulnerability taboo. We've labeled pain as weakness. But you know what I've learned? I've learned that silence is a slow death. And when you crack open that silence just enough to let someone have a peek inside, that's where healing starts. So here, I want you to tell your truth. I want you to let your scars speak. I'll read them here every week. No names, no pressure, just your truth. Because if you've survived something, that means you have something to teach the rest of us. So let's build a community here where trauma doesn't hide in the shadows, where pain doesn't get swept under the rug, and where healing becomes a collective rebellion amongst all of us. I believe that if scars could talk, they would remind you that survival is sacred. And so are you. The second segment is going to be called Life is Wild. Sometimes life is unbelievably profound. Sometimes it makes no sense and it's absolutely weird as hell. For example, today I have run into at least 3 door frames. My wife has choked on air at least 6 times since lunch. And this segment is going to be dedicated to the latter. Here, we're going to pause the existential crises, and we're going to talk about the hilariously bizarre roller coaster that it is being a flesh bag on this giant rock hurtling through space in 2025. Here's an example. Have you ever sneezed so hard that your back locked up and you questioned your entire existence? You ever forgotten why you walked into a room and done it so many times that at this point it just feels like you're time traveling and you just appear in the bathroom? Have you ever had a full-blown identity crisis in a Target aisle while holding a box of toilet paper? Do you ever chew with the front of your teeth like this? Just to let them join the party? that just me? Comments on that one are going to suck. I'm going to be a meme in 5 seconds. First episode, meme. This is going to be the part of the show where we talk about all the stuff that make us go, what in the hell are we doing here? Parking lot meltdowns, waving at somebody who you thought was waving at you, but now you got to pretend like you're waving at a bug because you realize they weren't waving at you. Or like when we wear our AirPods in the grocery store just so nobody talks to us. Or have you ever cried in the frozen food aisle because the Totino's pizza rolls, your ex used to make the very same ones? Sometimes life makes no sense. Sometimes healing feels more like a sitcom than it does listening to a TED Talk. And sometimes the most hilarious parts of our lives are the ones that are the most therapeutic. So in the Life is Wild segment, we're going to laugh at that stuff. We're going to laugh at the nonsense. We're going to find healing in the awkward moments, right? If we can't laugh at ourselves in our situation, all this experience is we're all just crying into a giant group chat. Because if these conversations prove one thing, it proves that we're all just out here, deliciously human, trying to figure it out with bad haircuts, emotional breakdowns, and everything else that comes with being a flesh bag on this hurtling rock in 2025, right? So life is wild. Life's awesome sometimes. It's also wild sometimes. So we're going to talk about it right here on the Shift Show. The third segment is going to be the unwritten rules of being a human being. Because I don't know about y'all, but when I fell out of my mama, life did not hand me a rule book. Well, it depends on who you ask. Some people believe they do have the rule book to this life. But regardless as to what rule book you do have or don't have, somehow, somewhere, we all learned the exact same weird-ass etiquette that nobody ever talks about. For example, you do not talk on the elevator. That's a law amongst people. You don't make eye contact in the bathroom stall, especially if someone just dropped a doozy in there, right? And if you hold the door for someone who is walking towards you from the next county over, they now have to sprint towards you like they're in a Spartan race, or they look like the douchebag. This is going to be a weekly roast of the ridiculous, hilarious, completely unspoken social contracts that we all seem to obey without ever agreeing to any of them. Like, every single time I go to the movies, when the person hands me the ticket and says, enjoy the show, I always say you too. Every time. Never fails. Could be my ADHD. I have no idea. Or how we pretend to be asleep on airplanes to avoid the guy named Steve sitting next to us who is all into essential oils and thinks that COVID is a hoax. I can't wait to see the comments on that one. They're going to be fantastic. Or how many of us would rather dislocate our shoulder at the gym than ask somebody if they're done using the machine? Why do any of these things happen? Because human beings are weird. Stop thinking you're not weird. Everybody's weird. In their own little way, they're weird to somebody, right? We're beautiful, emotional, kind-hearted, a lot of us, but we're still weird. We live by a secret handbook of silent agreements, and sometimes those rules are freaking hilarious. Other times they're not funny at all. Like, what about this rule? Men don't cry. Or how about the rule that says you have to be productive to be worthy? Or how about the rule that says asking for help, that makes you weak? In this segment, we will laugh at the funny ones, but we're also going to expose the harmful ones, and we're going to rewrite the ones that doesn't do anything for us anymore, doesn't serve us anymore. So, buckle up, awkward humans. We're going to break the social code, because being a hot mess is a universal language. We all just pretend that we're not fluent in it. The fourth segment is going to be one of my favorite. That's going to be the unanswerable. Each week, I'm going to ask you a question. Not one you can Google, not one that you can solve over coffee with your life coach, okay? Now, this one's going to be the kind that sits in the back of your mind like a splinter in your belief system. A question that doesn't necessarily need an answer, just needs space to be held. Because sometimes one of the most powerful and healing things that we can do is not try to figure it out. It's to feel it out. So let's do an unanswerable for the first episode. What if the person you've been trying to become is actually the person you thought would finally be loved? That one grabs your soul, doesn't it? Good. Many of us have been shape-shifting since we were kids, trying to become acceptable, palatable, impressive, desirable, a little less too much, a little less too little. How many of us have built our entire identities out of survival? You think you're building the dream version of yourself, but maybe you've just been building someone that wouldn't get left behind, someone who wouldn't get hurt again, someone who finally makes sense of whatever pain they've been experiencing. But what if that's not you? What if after all this time you thought you were chasing healing, but what if you were doing it through a lens of unworthiness? What if self-improvement is just socially accepted self-abandonment in a prettier outfit? A little brain taffy for you to chew on. I'm not going to ask these questions with any intention of trying to fix you. You're not a broken toy that needs to be fixed. I'm not going to ask you these questions to try to solve you. You're not a math problem. I'm going to ask them for you to just live with, to experience for a little bit. Because sometimes healing doesn't look like having all the damn answers. Sometimes it looks like asking simple questions. Because we're not going to meet here every week to be among the popular kids and share all the memes that we spent 6 hours making all night. I want this to be a space where we come together to try to make contact with the truth underneath all the noise, right? The fifth segment is going to be a fun one that's going to piss a lot of people off, and I can't wait. It's going to be called Humanity 2.0. I have a question. Are we building a world worth leaving to the ones we love the most? Are we building a society that reflects the best of us? Hell, some of us are so focused on what happens when we die, we become completely blind to what's right here and objectively real in front of us. We overlook real people in pursuit of an idea. And I'm not bashing your idea. I hope your idea gives you everything you can imagine and more. All I'm saying is, are we all collectively doing the best we can to prepare those who follow us in this shit fest that we leave behind for them? Or are some of us making things a lot harder and unwilling to recognize it, regardless of our beliefs? Let's do something crazy. Let's imagine just for a moment a different version of ourselves, a different version of humanity. Imagine if the whole world just got wiped clean. Not like a Thanos snapping his fingers or apocalyptic movie type of way. I mean a psychological reset, a blank slate, a fresh start. No religion, no politics, no family drama, no generational trauma, no capitalism-induced inferiority complex. If you're already mad, you are wasting your time here. No labels, no categories, no inherited beliefs passed down like emotional hand-me-downs that never fit. Just humans, fresh out the box. What would we be? Who would we be? If we were never taught what success looked like, if we weren't taught who to hate, yeah, hate's learned, welcome to life. If we weren't raised to believe that love comes with conditions, or that value has a scoreboard, if we didn't learn how to measure our worth by how many followers we have, by how good our grades were, by how good our job title sounds, or the number that looks back up at us from the scale we're standing on, who in the hell would we be? Would we still compare? Would we still segregate? Would we still invent gods that look like us and use them to punish people who don't? How many gods would there even be? Would we still invent billionaires and poverty? Would we still create shame to control each other? Would we still fear vulnerability like it's a disease? Or would we finally meet each other as equals, blank, curious, and open? See, this segment is not about starting a revolution. It's about considering a re-evolution. Because maybe we don't need to fix everybody. Maybe we don't need to fix the world. Maybe we just need to rethink the foundation in which we built it on. This segment is not about who we are. This segment is going to be about what we could have been, and maybe what we still can be if we just learn how to get out of our own damn way together. The sixth segment is going to be my absolute favorite, and it is called Stay. If you have ever stood at the edge of giving up, This segment is going to be for you every week. If you've ever held your breath to see if the silence sounded better than the noise, if you've ever Googled how much it hurts, or if you've ever stared at a bottle just a little bit too long, if you've ever smiled so hard that your soul cracked in half just to survive whatever room that you were in at that moment, stay. Because I know what it feels like when life doesn't ask. It just takes. When getting out of bed feels like you're climbing Mount Everest with a huge backpack and it's loaded down with shame. When the thought of doing this again tomorrow is so completely unbearable that your body just shuts down to protect you. But listen, you don't have to prove your pain to earn help. You don't have to justify your exhaustion. You don't need to be worse off than someone else to deserve the opportunity to breathe. You just need to stay. Not for some big, grand purpose. Sometimes purpose is just keeping your blood moving for the 5 more minutes. Sometimes purpose is just getting out of the bed. Sometimes purpose is just taking that next breath and then seeing where you stand. Stay, not out of obligation, not out of guilt, not because of some cheesy bumper sticker you saw at the red light. Stay because the world is different with you in it. Better with you in it. Stay because your story's not done yet. You see, nobody hands us the final chapter of our lives before the middle tries to destroy it. But what if this moment, the one that you're barely surviving, what if it's not the end? What if it's the plot twist? What if staying, in fact, isn't weakness? What if it's rebellion against everything that tried to convince you that you were disposable, that your pain was too loud, that your presence didn't matter? You do matter. Right now. Not when you're better, not when you're healed, not when you've got it all together. Right now. In your mess, in your ache, in the silence that you think nobody hears, you matter. Because I hear you. And I need you to hear this. That breath you just took, that's proof. Proof that some part of you, even the smallest part of you, is still fighting. Let's honor that part. Take a sip of water. Text somebody that you love and trust. Cry ugly tears in the kitchen floor if you have to. Cuss at the sky. Yell. Breathe. But just stay. Because there are people you haven't met yet who need your exact story. There are moments you haven't lived that will change everything, that will put air back into your lungs. There are parts of you that you haven't met yet that will look back on this moment and thank you for giving them a chance to grow. Stay long enough to meet them. And if you can't stay for them and you can't stay for you today, stay for me. Stay for the person listening who thought they were alone. Stay for that version of you that doesn't want to go, but right now just doesn't know how to keep holding on. Stay for the people who would consider you an answered prayer. Trust me, they're out there. Let this be your tether. Let this be the voice that drowns out any lies that are bouncing around in your head. Because here's a simple truth. You are not alone. Not as alone as you think you are. And I promise you, whatever storm you're in, it won't always feel like this. So breathe. Put your feet on the floor and just take the next step. Even if it's that far, just take it. But stay. So that's it. That is a little bit of what you can expect if you choose to spend some time with my ugly mug each week. This, ladies and gentlemen, is The Shift Show, a safe house for those who laugh at trauma jokes because they hit just a little bit too close to home. For the ones who have tried everything, from self-help books to CBD bath bombs to breath work to disappearing for a weekend in Gatlinburg and still feel like something's missing. For the ones who've been walking around in shoes made out of survival, realizing these things are too damn tight now. I'm ready to take them off. This show, again, is not here to fix you. I can't fix you, nor do I have any intention to try to fix you. This show is here to reveal you. Not the curated, filtered, socially acceptable version of you, the real one. The real you underneath the masks, underneath the shame, underneath the programming. The you that was never broken to begin with, just buried underneath all that other stuff. And if that kind of chaos sounds like home, If that kind of rawness makes you exhale just a little bit deeper, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the show that breaks what broke you, the one that challenges everything you know and dares you to grow. And we are just getting started, my friends. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday. It's when I hope to drop videos each week on YouTube for video, on audio. It'll be on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on socials. I'll put all the links down in the description. Also, if you haven't checked it out yet, check out the book. People tell me it's worth it. For everyone who's been asking, an audiobook is coming. I promise. It's on the way. I'll keep you posted on it, but you boy got a lot of stuff going on right now, okay? But it's coming. It has been a genuine pleasure to spend a little time with you, even though I've just been sitting in this dark corner staring at two cameras for I don't know how long I've been sitting here. But that's it. The first episode is down. I truly hope that you got something out of it, and I hope I've piqued your interest enough to join me next time. My name is Adam Blevins, and welcome to each of you to the Shift Show. Come on back when the world gets too loud.